edited 160 issues of Strange Adventures and 90 issues of Mystery in Space from 1950 to 1954. He also had to deal with Carmen Infantino, who Schwartz noted for his inconsistent details with anatomy and so forth. For example, Batman's pouches on his utility belts were never the same number. Besides this, Infantino was brilliant and was even able to demand his salary be $1 more than any other artist at DC. This resulted in Gil Kane leaving for Marvel when they couldn't pay him the same as Infantino, as once again, Infantino's salary had at least $1 more. Due to his continued success as editor, Julie Schwartz was soon put on Batman, even though he didn't like the character and was a little unfamiliar with him. A prime example was the story Mystery of the Menacing Mask in Detective Comics number 327, which ended with Batman pointing a gun at criminals, something Schwartz later realized the Dark Knight would never do. Nevertheless, Schwartz decided to return to his dark mystery roots along with being an escape artist, while replacing the second feature in Detective Comics with Elongated Man, another comic book detective in his own right, who Schwartz also oversaw his introduction in The Flash number 112 on May of 1960, with writer John Broome and Carmen Infantino creating him. Schwartz also had the Batcave modernized, giving it an elevator and a secret garage door opening. One thing Schwartz couldn't change was the artist on the comic, as Bob Kane's contract made him exclusive to the series, or at least who got the ghost pencil in his name, which was usually Sheldon Moldoff. One time, when Schwartz had Kane come into the office to ask him to fix things on recent pages, which Kane did at first, the pages only came back worse. Finally, Kane then had Murphy Anderson, who was also in the office, to do it for them, and when Schwartz asked why, Kane openly admitted he lacked the talent to do it himself. Schwartz continued to expand the Batman universe, adding Aunt Harriet after having Alfred killed off in Detective Comics number 328, while bringing back classic villains like the Joker and the Riddler. However, when the Adam West Batman TV show was about to launch in 1966, the producer William Dozer insisted that Alfred be brought back in the comic books, as he was going to be a character on the show. One positive impact that show did have on the comic was the creation of Barbara Gordon Batgirl, debuting in Detective Comics number 359 on January of 1967, with Schwartz coming up with the idea of her being Commissioner Gordon's daughter, while writer Gardner Fox and artist Carmen Infantino crafted her overall character. Later in his editing run, Schwartz helped create Ra's al Ghul in Batman number 232 with writer Denny O'Neil and artist Neil Adams, in the story Daughter of the Demon, with Schwartz coming up with his name based on an astronomy book. He also helped with the creation of Man-Bat, though he and Neil Adams dispute who came up with the name. Schwartz would edit Batman until Detective Comics number 481 in December of 1978, January 1979, and Batman number 390 in March of 1979, overseeing arguably the most acclaimed run in the regular series. Julie Schwartz would work with Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams again on the Green Lantern Green Arrow series, which ran from Green Lantern number 76 on April of 1970, with the title changed to reflect Green Arrow's edition, till 122 on November of 1979. This run was popular with older readers as it dealt with contemporary issues like racism and politics. One notable scene had an elderly black man confront Green Lantern over why he did more for aliens than his own Earthlings, while a classic story revealed that Speedy, Green Arrow's sidekick, was addicted to drugs. The contrast to the Law and Order Green Lantern provided the conflict with the rebellious Green Arrow, showing them how they were both right and wrong in various situations. However, younger readers hated it for the lack of action, thus returning it to a more traditional superhero comic later on, though this run is considered a classic today. Julie Schwartz left the editing of the series with issue number 103 on April of 1978. With these successes, Julie Schwartz was next assigned DC's premier character in Superman in 1971, when Mort Weisinger retired in 1970. Schwartz immediately reduced Superman's powers, as he was pretty much a god at that point, while also getting rid of Kryptonite and his robot assistants. He also modernized Clark Kent's look to the point that GQ magazine took note and changed his job, making him a TV reporter after leaving the Daily Planet. Schwartz assigned Denny O'Neil to write it and would edit the Superman vs. Muhammad Ali special in 1978. However, problems arose when Neil Adams kept changing O'Neil's script, leading to O'Neil to quit and have Adams finish writing the comic himself. This is thus why O'Neil is credited with the story, while Adams is credited with the adaptation in the comic. Julie Schwartz did get to be one of the 172 famous faces watching the match on the cover, which also included Cher, Donnie Marie, and Jimmy Carter. When the Superman movie went into development in the 1970s under father-son producing team Alexander and Ilya Salkin, Julie Schwartz was asked who should write the screenplay, and his first suggestions were Lee Brackett and then Alfred Bester. However, they didn't like either of them, with Alexander Salkin even claiming he never heard of Alfred Bester. And instead, the producers hired Mario Puzo of Godfather fame. Plus, when the Salkins learned that Clark Kent was no longer a newspaper reporter, they insisted it be changed back, which DC did. Similar to what happened to the Batman TV show, and will not be the last time an outside adaptation affected the content of the comic book. Outside of major comics, Schwartz tried to get Dial H for Hero off the ground, the series about a device that gives ordinary humans superpowers, but that unfortunately failed. As he was getting later in his career, Schwartz started to receive numerous rewards for his accomplished career. In 1981, Schwartz received the Inkpot Award, and in 1985, he was named part of the 50 who made DC great on the company's 50th anniversary. Schwartz also stepped up to receive awards for his friends when they couldn't make it. For example, he accepted the Nebula Award for Joel Siegel and Joe Shuster, with the later doing pinups in the Superman number 400. When Schwartz turned 70 in 1985, writer Elliot Morgan decided to surprise him when he snuck Julie Schwartz into Superman number 411, with penciler Kurt Swan drawing him as Superman delivers a birthday cake to his office, along with the entire issue being dedicated to Schwartz in his career. As his swan song as editor of Superman, along with the pre-crisis Superman himself, Schwartz hired Alan Moore to write Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow in Superman number 423 and Action Comics number 583, September of 1986, along with artists Kurt Swan and Kurt Schaffenberg ending their run in the series as well. As Superman was about to be handed over to writer-artist John Byrne post-Crisis of Infinite Earths. Originally, Schwartz wanted Superman co-creator Jerry Siegel to write the story, but refused when he found out that it would be a work for hire, something Siegel vowed he would never do again over his dispute with Superman's rights. As part of a larger tribute, Swan managed to draw Julie Schwartz on the cover of Action Comics number 583 next to DC President Jeanette Kahn. With the series being handed over to writer-artist John Byrne, fresh from a successful run at Marvel on Uncanny X-Men and Fantastic Four, to reboot in post-crisis, Julie Schwartz even arranged a publicity photo of Kurt Swan handing the pen over to Byrne as a way of passing the torch. This wasn't the only comic Julie Schwartz appeared in, as he would later become a character in the series Ambush Bug, created by writer Keith Giffen in DC Comics Presents number 52 in December of 1982, about an alien from the foreign world of New Jersey who decides to seek out the cushiest job in the world, which he deduces is Julie Schwartz at DC. Ambush Bug decides to travel to the far future to find out when Julie Schwartz will retire so he can take the job, only to discover that Schwartz still works there as a disembodied head. The series of DC Comics Presents was edited by Julie Schwartz, debuting in July-August of 1978 and lasting for 97 issues and 4 annuals till September of 1986, designed to showcase a variety of team-ups and stories throughout DC Universe, mostly involving Superman. With his regular comic book career over, Julie Schwartz returned to editing science fiction, this time in adapting classic science fiction stories into graphic novels, such as Robert Silverberg's Nightwings and George R.R. Martin's Sand Kings, who was reportedly never forgave Schwartz for never publishing any of his letters in the DC Letters column. Well, Mr. Martin, how about you start writing books for a change? Later, Julie Schwartz would hit the convention circuit, soon averaging 10 to 12 conventions a year. When fans asked him about comics, he would admit he didn't read any comic books he wasn't involved in at the time. He would later become more involved with conventions when he was made the presenter of the Jack Kirby Hall of Fame, but insisted on changes, such as more entries per year, and when asked for suggestions, Schwartz immediately said Joel Siegel, Joe Shuster, Bob Kane, and Bill Finger, stating that any comic book Hall of Fame is incomplete without the creators of Superman and Batman. Julie Schwartz would later be inducted into the Will Eisner Hall of Fame in 1997, with Gil Kane accepting as Schwartz couldn't attend due to health reasons. Sergio Jonas announced Julie Schwartz's name at the event, signaling Gil Kane to give the speech, but to Kane's surprise, it was then announced that he was also being inducted into the Hall of Fame as well after giving his speech for Schwartz. Schwartz would later have the Julie Award named after him at DragonCon in Atlanta, Georgia, a convention I regularly make, in 1998 by Chairman Ed Kramer, with the first honorees being him and Ray Bradbury. This award would later be given to such recipients as Will Eisner, Peter David, and Carmen Infantino. Throughout his career, Julie Schwartz remained good friends with Ray Bradbury and Harlan Ellison, with Ellison claiming it was Schwartz that launched his career. The two had a lifelong friendship, which is an accomplishment in itself, considering that Ellison's notorious reputation. Robert Bloch once joked that Ellison was the only living organism on the planet whose natural habitat was hot water. Despite being essentially retired, Julie Schwartz kept an office at D.C., which he would visit at least once a week, something his old boss, the head of D.C., Jack Leibowitz, suggested, stating it will keep him young. Leibowitz lived to 100, so he may have been onto something. Also, many suggested he was there so that DC creators could see what a real editor looked like, becoming something of a goodwill ambassador and editor in Paris at DC till his death at the age of 88. Like I said, Leibowitz might have been onto something. Julie Schwartz joked that he wanted on his tombstone, "Here lies Julie Schwartz. He made his last deadline." That date would be February 8, 2004, when he died of pneumonia at the age of 88. He was preceded by his wife, Jean, who died in 1986 from emphysema, and survived by his son-in-law, children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. Julie Schwartz's legacy would be sullied after his death when notable female comic book creators like Joe Duffy, Jill Thompson, and Colleen Doran made sexual harassment allegations against him, with Doran claiming he attempted to fondle her in a limo when she was just a teenager. Of course, Julie Schwartz is not alive to defend himself, though Doran claimed that he would later send a letter to her through her agent apologizing, stating he didn't know what he was thinking at the time. Modern times have shown that such allegations should not be dismissed out of hand, and even great men and women in their fields can still do heinous acts. Despite this, Schwartz's legacy as one of the great DC editors and science fiction agents remains. From the Silver Age onward, he helped guide many of DC's premier titles and before that guided the careers of many great science fiction writers that he grew up admiring. You cannot write the history of science fiction or DC without mentioning Julie Schwartz, for both were made better by the work he provided for them. I would like to thank the chief source for this episode, Man of Two Worlds, by Julie Schwartz and Brian M. Thompson, along with an afterword by Harlan Ellison. A great autobiography of the comic book great and science fiction legend, providing plenty of juicy stories of his brilliant career. A must-read for any comic book fan. And now is December 10th, 2020, time for the favorite comic book of the week. The Comic History of Animation, #1, by Fran Van Lente and Ryan Dunleavy, that begins this new history series on the history of animation, starting at its early silent era from the performance chalk drawings, going up to when a young Walt Disney made his first raise into animation. Van Lente makes another great debut issue with this history series as he goes into very fun and neat tidbits about animation that we probably didn't know about. For instance, how Thomas Edison had a early hand in the first works of animation. And Dunleavy's cartoony art is a perfect match for the storytelling, which is both informative and enjoyable and very funny at times. Great characters, everyone involved. I liked how every human character creator that's involved with it, like Walt Disney, actually is their character is actually modeled after their most famous creation. For instance, Walt Disney, naturally looks like Mickey Mouse a little bit. Overall, the comic book history series by Van Lente and Dunleavy has always been a great, enjoyable read and very informative, not just for us history comic book fans like me, but everyone. It's a highly recommended read. So yeah, definitely pick it up if you can. You want to have a great read and plus a little bit of history. And let's be honest, a little bit better than this crazy podcast. And with that being the favorite comic book, join me again next week where I begin a two-parter on the life of the great Carl Barks, the good duck artist. Until then, go out and enjoy yourself a good comic book.